morning and happy Saturday, you guys. It is Amanda and Baron with Kickin'Cancer Cares on KSLM Radio, 104.3 FM and 1220 AM. Our sponsor for this first half is Odd Moe's Pizza. Huge shout out to Mike from Odd Moe's. He's been with us since the very beginning. He delivers. So if you guys don't want to leave your house on this beautiful day, then stay home.
Just stay in this nice little house and have it right in the front door.
Yes. Enjoy your cozy home and the Reggie Veggie and the Green Monster and those potato poppers for a side. And then you can pick up some nice IPAs, is that what they're called?
Yeah.
From Sania Brewing that Mike carries as well.
Yep.
So, huge shout out to Mike.
Speaking of delivered to your house, we are not in the studio.
We are not.
We're actually in Kate's little mini house.
Yes, we are.
Welcome, Kate, again.
Hello, thank you. Yes, we're in my backyard shed studio.
Yeah, this is actually your yoga studio, right?
Yes.
Nice. Well, I went and did a little research. You were actually with us June the 17th, which was 4 months ago.
Okay.
So welcome back.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. Well, last week's guest was Brooke. We all wore pink.
Yes.
Remember?
Well, in honor of her, I wore it again.
Yes, you did. But I thought her message was so interesting, and it's so true that if you don't take time for your wellness now, more than likely you're going to be forced to take time for your wellness later.
100%. Yeah. She hit that one on the nail. So
many good tips, and I'm just going to tell the listeners, if you're listening now and you haven't gone to our YouTube, go to Kickin'Cancer Productions. Please hit subscribe, and then just go back and find that episode with Brooke and re-listen to it.
Yes.
You and your goofy faces. You know that Ashley's going to edit that right in. Well, we have been hitting the disease-fighting foods, and I do find this a little intriguing because I am not I can't even say a fan because I don't even think I've ever used this stuff. But I know Kate has.
Oh, yeah.
You've got a few thoughts here.
Yeah.
It's called matcha. Am I saying that right?
Yeah.
This type of tea packs a powerful punch. According to this one particular researcher, it's very high in antioxidants and very healthy plant compounds. Specifically, it's a powder which you mix with hot water. Mm-hmm. And it delivers this compound that is a type of antioxidant that may have cancer battling properties.
Okay. So it's a powerful one.
Yeah. Matcha may be tea, but it has as much caffeine as a cup of coffee, so avoid drinking it before bedtime.
Okay, noted.
Mm-hmm.
And for a guy who hasn't had this, how do you drink this, Kate?
Yeah, so it is a green tea powder.
Green.
And so you don't drink it like a normal tea with a tea baggie.
Okay.
You actually drink the powder.
Okay.
You drink the powder.
You drink the powder.
Interesting.
Yeah. And I know it's popular now to do like the matcha lattes. So,
okay, yes, I've heard of those. Yes.
So you can even mix it with like hot milk and water and do your little latte thing with it. Mm-hmm. And it is stimulating, but not in the same way like coffee is, where I can get that jittery kind of feeling if I've had too much. Matcha's like a really like calming, but like stimulating.
Well, so it has a lot of caffeine in it.
Right.
Is it bitter?
It is bitter, so
maybe like a little bit of honey added to it, to just that artificial, or not artificial, a natural sweetener.
Yeah,
if you will.
Do you add something to yours?
I don't, because I love tea.
Oh,
I love the bitterness. I love dark tea, black tea, green tea.
You like it all.
So I'm fine with even just putting in hot water and mixing it up. And
Well, and I guess for anyone who hasn't tried it, figure out what level you like. If it's too bitter, add a little bit of honey, maybe a little bit more honey, a little more, whatever you find at your comfort level.
Or try a matcha latte at any coffee place these days.
Yeah, I guess you can just try it out that way. Mm-hmm. So, well, what I do want to do is jump back to that last podcast that you were on 4 months ago. It was so powerful. If you remember this, we talked about hyper arousal and hypo arousal.
Yes,
remember those two?
That's right. Yes.
So it just clicked, right? And there's a visual that I have seen that you've done at some of the presentations. The hyper is this bear chasing these people out of the woods. That's your hyper. Mm-hmm. And the hypo is this guy just in his chair, but collapsed. Yeah. So those that haven't listened, just briefly, will you go through those two for us again?
Yeah, so the hyper is the one we're more familiar with. Okay. That's the fight and flight response.
Okay.
And this is where your body will move blood flow away from your digestive and vital organs into your legs. and into your arms
Okay.
to prepare you to run like hell away from the threat
Right.
or to fight it,
Yeah.
with your arms. And so that one's, characterized by the fight or flight, where we're trying to run to safety.
Yeah.
The hypo is the one we're less familiar with, or we just don't really talk about as much as a collective. And that's where our body will now get to a state where we can't maintain that fight or flight any longer. So we go into a collapse, freeze, shutdown mode. And that's characterized by feeling extremely fatigued,
Okay.
exhausted, low motivation. Some people will feel like they just have zero motivation to do the things that are important to them. It might be hard to get out of bed when you're in that state.
So someone that's in a state of depression, and I've seen commercials, but I want these people that are just so depressed they're in a state of hypoarousal.
Yes, correct.
And the commercials would want you to take a drug to get you out of hypoarousal.
Yeah. Yeah.
Except you have a lot better options, don't you?
Right.
Than the
That's where
drugs.
yoga comes in mind, because you can't think your way out of these states. They're
I have
natural
been there. I will
responses.
totally agree.
Yeah.
I have been in that state of hypoarousal for like almost 2 years, and
Right.
it's an awful place to be.
Yeah. It's
And
all you
for-
want to do is sleep.
You do, and the worst part is that I do this kind of stuff all the time. Like, just snap out of it, and you can't just snap out of
Right.
it. You can't.
Right. So we're working with the body with yoga. So
Okay. Well, the other thing I remember when you were before is you had this diagram, like a little ladder.
oh yeah.
Yeah, and then so the first step down was the hyper,
Mhm.
and the bottom was the hypo, and you talked about this cycle to get through the ladder, right?
Right.
Am I remembering this correctly?
Yep. I think
Yeah.
you have it flipped, but
See, I'm not
Yeah.
remembering correctly.
we gotta have the visual in front of us,
Right.
but yeah. So we want to complete the stress cycle, and the problem is that most of us we don't make the time to do that, to check in with our body, to regulate our nervous system, and return to a state of feeling safe and socially engaged and just better, because
Right.
there's so many symptoms that come out of being in fight or flight for a long time chronically, or the collapse freeze, that are so uncomfortable.
Oh,
I mean,
yeah.
it really does feel sometimes unmanageable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So while we're doing the whole review, I know you went through 2 breathing techniques.
Yeah, that's
And
right.
I think I told you just to do one of the breathing techniques. My older son lives in Eastern Washington, going through a really stressful phase in his life. He actually listened to that episode and sent me a text that he was using those breathing techniques.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
I love
But
that.
I also know that our amazing videographer was editing that particular one and stuff in Ashley's life, and she was going through those breathing
Now I
techniques.
do the 4-4-4 all the time, and I brag to everybody else. I'm like, even Navy SEALs. use it
That's
too.
right.
Like,
Yes,
yeah.
Navy
That's
SEALs are
awesome.
trained to do that 4-4-4
So,
breath.
will you take the listeners through again these 2 different breathing techniques?
Yeah, so the 4-4-4, or otherwise known as box breathing, where you breathe in for a count of 4, and then you hold for a count of 4, breathe out for a count of 4, and then hold that out for a count of 4, and begin again. So,
Okay.
Well, and I know for me, just that consciously going 4, it slows my body down. It makes me slow down to go through the 4s. And then when I hold the 4, again, it's just forcing my body to slow down. I don't know if that's what it's supposed to do, but it works for me that way.
Absolutely. Yep, it helps to slow down. It helps to bring the focus and just feel more centered and grounded in your body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, I know Ashlie mentioned the Navy SEALs. Why did the Navy SEALs use this box? Why is it so valuable for them?
Right. So they found that the focus ability was really profound, especially in high stress situations.
Okay.
So they wanted to train the Navy SEALs to be able to deal with high stress situations
Yeah.
and do the box breathing.
Okay. So what's the other one? So the box is one of them. What's the other one?
The other one, I just explained that basically making your exhalation longer than your inhalation.
Okay.
So you might count in an inhalation for a count of 4, 3, 2, 1, and then breathe out for 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Okay.
And just kind of repeat that. And it doesn't have to be that length, you know.
So
you
it's
can-
a 4 count in and a 6 count out.
yeah, something like that. It could be a different count if
Okay.
that feels too long for you or too short. Just, kind of count internally and
Was that one called the 468?
468, yes, that's
Okay.
commonly, yeah. Mhm.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's the 8 part of it? The 4 is the in, the 6 is the out, and then a pause for 8 seconds? Is that what the 8 is?
No, in for 4, and then hold for 6.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
Out for 8.
Yes,
Gotcha.
there it is.
There it is.
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
I forgot that. Yeah, that's the one that I mentioned. Yeah.
They
Well-
stuck with me.
Yeah, good.
You made a big impact on Ashlie, I can tell that already.
I need it.
Well, and I think the reason I want to bring this back up again is I want to shift the focus of today's interview to how do we control stress,
Yeah.
right? You talked about it last time, and I think you did a great job of going through the hyper and the hypo and some breathing tips. But I went back to our book, the After Cancer Living book, and one of the points in here is stress. And for the listeners that haven't been following our show, Dr. Lorenzo Cohen has a PhD. He is at the MD Anderson in Houston, Texas. He's actually in charge of integrative medicine. So his job is prevention of cancer. Right?
Yes.
And he writes this book. He calls it the Mix 6. 5 of these 6, Kickin'Cancer is using. We use these as our core values. But what I wanted to talk about is what he brings up in this section on stress. And Kate, you and I were talking about this before the show. This is just so profound. One of his colleagues who works in the Department of Gynecological Oncology,
Okay.
so all of your female
Yep.
reproductive organs, at the MD Anderson, has for nearly 20 years been conducting groundbreaking research on how chronic stress, what you talk about all the time, chronic stress, which includes psychosocial factors like chronic depression, anxiety, and social isolation, has a direct influence on cancer's ability to grow and spread.
Yes.
Wow.
Like they're proving that if your body stays in that state for too long,
Right.
it allows the cancer cells to grow and
It
spread.
like feeds the cancer.
Yeah, yeah.
It
And
also weakens your immune system the more stressed out you are.
big
Yeah.
time,
Yeah.
Yeah.
big time, yeah. I know for me, this chronic depression, I wasn't in that state a long time, but my health majorly declined when I was in that state of depression
Right.
because it's that social isolation. Right?
Yeah.
But as it goes through here, it starts like, well, how do you deal with this? And here's some brief breakdown of some stress reduction techniques. So one of them is called cognitive behavior therapy. We're not going to get into that. Meditation, you could definitely add your thoughts to the meditation. Deep breathing, we just talked about that one.
Yeah.
But the one I really wanted to hit on was yoga.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's actually in the book that yoga is one of those techniques to help reduce stress.
Interesting. I didn't realize that.
Right? Well, Kate was thrilled to hear that.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
In fact, he says that his grandmother was a legendary yogini.
Uh-huh.
Is that a word? Is
that's-
that like
yeah.
a master yoga person?
Yes.
That's it. What
a
it is.
yogini.
A yogini. That's a cool word.
That is a cool word.
It's the female version. So
Oh.
there's the yogi, which is the male, and
Okay.
the yogini is the female version.
Okay, so are you a yogini?
That's what I would be called. Yes.
Yes, I love
Wow, that's so cool. So his grandmother was a legendary yogini.
Okay.
Awesome.
She started her yoga practice later in life. I lived with her for a year in order to learn yoga, so I knew firsthand its healing powers. It even formed the basis of my early research,
Interesting.
which along with research from others, showed that yoga imparts body awareness, flexibility, helps cancer patients sleep, improves their mood, reduces fatigue, increases physical functioning, and helps to regulate stress hormones in the blood.
Sounds like everybody across the board needs to be doing yoga.
Yeah.
If it helps with all of that.
So let's hit a couple of these, Kate. Flexibility kind of stands to reason. Somebody a little older, like myself, and the joints are not functioning like they used to. I know that when we came here to kind of prep for this thing, you had me do some yoga, and like, oh, you got some hip issues. How does yoga assist with the flexibility part?
Well, a lot of it is just training your body through movement. I always say if you don't use it, you lose it.
Yeah.
So that's what we're doing with yoga, and we're trying to encourage multiple different ranges of movement through poses, and so that we're exercising the joint in all different ranges.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I know that, you and I have been friends for a long time, and you are part of whatever group that I'm part of, and yours is gentle yoga.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes.
Because when you and I first met, I had this image in my head of these crazy contortion poses that I thought I will never be able to do this kind of yoga.
Yes.
But that's not what you do, is it?
No.
I mean, you probably do that, but that's not what you do.
It's been a part of my practice, but it's not my aim.
Okay.
When I sit down to practice, even personally, my aim is to work on my nervous system and to regulate, so that I just feel my best to show up to my life.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. The other one I mentioned is sleep. How would utilizing yoga help with sleep?
Well, a lot of it is about those stress markers in the blood that
Okay.
has been now tested and researched. Yoga has shown, and meditation has shown, to reduce those stress markers in the blood. There's many reasons for that. Part of it's the body awareness. When we have a physical sense of where our body is in space, in time, that brings safety to the body.
Okay.
So we don't have all that accelerated fight or flight response, and the acidity going up and marking up, and high breath rate, perspiration, heart rate,
Yeah.
pulse,
Yeah.
all of that. Yeah.
Well, and I find it intriguing that of those 6 things that he set out, we took 5 of them. The one we didn't was environment. We figured we could help you control those other 5. One of them is to get proper rest, and one of them is to reduce your stress.
Mm-hmm.
And what you're telling me is that yoga can help with 2 of those.
Both, yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
That's really cool.
Yeah, it
That's
is.
really
And the move it or lose it, it's kind of fitting because Lucy here is paralyzed from her waist down, and so she doesn't move her back end anymore, and she's lost all muscle and all of that. So yes, if you don't use it and stretch your body and all of those things, you lose it.
Yes. Yeah.
And you do some stuff at Salem Hospital with cancer patients and older people, and you do chair yoga?
Yeah, so we call it gentle yoga there too, and I usually we do 6 weeks together.
Okay.
So I'll get a group of doctor referral patients, and it is open to the public, so I'll get a few public people too. And we start the 6-week series doing chair, so that I can get an assessment of, where everybody's at with their range of movement. What
Yeah.
are they comfortable with? And then as we're going along, I might have them kind of get up off the chair and we'll do some standing work. And then I see how strong they're there, and then I start encouraging getting closer to the floor,
Okay.
and doing maybe some hands and knees things if that works for them. And then always that there's options too. So if there's
Right.
one person in the group who's just like, no, getting on the floor is a no-go zone for me, right, I'll still have options for them too.
Yeah.
What I love what you just said is, years ago I was training for one of those Spartan races, and just because of how I had been taught, I was going to the gym, and I would sit on this what they call a crunch machine. So you sit in a chair and you grab like this and you crunch, okay? And then there's another one where you actually lean back. And I was having these really crazy spasms in my back and my chest. Well, I went to a friend of mine, not Jason Hull, but another chiropractor, and he's like, well, tell me what you're doing. And he said, your body, your back is designed not to do the movements that you're doing.
Right.
So you're forcing your back to do something it's not used to doing.
Oh.
And I said, well, how can I work my core better? And he said, planking is the best way to work your core. Well, not everyone can start on the floor like this.
Right.
So he said, start with a chair
Yeah.
and start like this.
Yes.
Okay.
And if you can hold that position for a minute without your body shaking, then you're ready to go to the seat of the chair. So now you're more at this angle,
Right.
right? And he said, hold that for a minute until your body doesn't shake, and then go to the floor on your knees. And so there's this gradual movement down to the floor, because your best way to work your core is planking, but you're not ready to start on the floor.
So baby steps into it.
Baby steps down.
Okay.
And that was great advice years ago, and that's whenever I want to focus on my core, I do planking.
Yeah.
But now I don't have to start here, I can go down here.
Yeah.
But you're doing the same thing at the hospital with yoga.
Yep. Absolutely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's amazing the kind of core work you can do at the start too, just at the chair level. and then we get them, a little bit stronger so that they are prepared to do this other stuff, and get closer to the floor.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a couple of people you've worked with that are like really great success stories?
Oh my gosh, yeah. So many. But I have my core group of people who've been with me for gosh, like 10 years practicing with me. And one of them has had 2 hip replacements. She had 2 hip replacements before she met me. And when she first walked into that class, she was terrified to even just move her legs away from her midline, like to take a wide stance.
Absolutely.
She had all this fear about all kinds of things. Well, when she started working with me privately, because she was seeing, oh, this is actually working with me. And I go over to do a practice with her. I turn around for a second, and then I turn back, and she's in a full squat down on the floor. And she goes, am I doing this right? And I go, when did that happen?
This is the woman who couldn't go back and forth.
That's right.
Her hips were that bad.
Yeah.
And that's got to be so gratifying for you to see her do a squat like that.
Oh my gosh. And she said she even moved a lot of her, when she was like that, she had to move her pots and pans up to like counter surface level.
Okay.
Because she couldn't squat down at that time.
Right.
To get her pots and pans and cook. Well, now she's like, Kate, I've been able to bring all those pots and pans back where they belong, back in the bottom shelf, and
That's
squat
awesome.
down.
That's got to feel so just empowering for her to be able to be restricted with movement like that you're so used to doing, and having that taken away from you, where your pots and pans are on your counter. And then what a reminder that I can't bend down, so now my counters are cluttered with my pots and pans, to then be able to move forward and get better like that. That's awesome.
Yeah.
You probably changed her life more than you realized.
Well, and she did all the work, really.
Yes.
Right?
This is true.
Yeah, she was the one that
Well,
showed
and
up every day.
I think the key, and I appreciate your humility, but someone has to guide that person.
Yeah.
Thank
A
you.
Yogini.
Yeah.
Because she didn't know what to do.
Yeah.
Right.
And she didn't know where to start. And you're right, she did all the work. But someone had to guide her step by step.
Yeah.
So do you still stay in touch with that lady?
Yep, and she's still on my virtuals every Monday and Wednesday. We're practicing.
Okay.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And she's still doing the squats?
Oh yeah. Yep. No problem.
Do you have a guy that you've worked with?
I you don't see guys as often come
Right.
into those yoga rooms, but yes, yeah.
Because again, it's an image in my head, okay? So the image in my head, the guys that I see doing yoga, they have long hair in a ponytail, and they're really, really skinny, and they look like they're still living in the 60s. That's the image in my head
Right.
of guys doing yoga.
Yeah, yeah.
But that's not it.
Right.
And in fact,
I know.
we're just going to give you a little sneak preview. After the commercial break, you're going to see an older guy.
Oh boy.
Yeah.
Hang on tight, you guys.
I'm gonna do some yoga after the commercial break just to prove that it's not that difficult.
Yes.
And we're just hoping that the YouTube fans don't laugh at me when I do it.
Don't worry, you guys. I'll laugh for you.
You'll laugh at me. But do you have a couple maybe one success story from a guy that's done some yoga?
I had one professor who was over at Willamette who just had a lot of workload on him. High stress, getting those grading papers, all that stuff with like college students.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in quite regularly, and I just saw his whole body just kind of open up a little bit more. He was kind of, he looked like he was holding a lot of tension and stress in his body. It was all like kind of restricted, head down, focus, and just by, a few weeks of working with him, really, it seems so dramatic. Like, oh, here's his real personality, and you know what I mean. And so,
Well, and you like to work with high stress professionals.
absolutely,
It's kind of a niche that you like to work alongside.
yeah.
Well, not that eating pizza is high stress, but because we're not really a high stress profession.
Right.
But we probably should thank Mike so much for
Oh
everything
my
he does.
goodness, yes. Mike is absolutely.
And if yoga doesn't get rid of your stress, Oddmost Pizza will.
both of them should just like come
Just
hand in hand.
do yoga and then have pizza afterwards.
Right.
How's that?
There you
How's that?
go.
That is great. What is your favorite pizza from Oddmost?
The Reggie's still my favorite.
The Reggie.
Yeah.
So
In fact, we had it 2 nights ago.
I'm loving
you?
the vegan cheese.
the vegan cheese. They
So
do have
so
vegan
I do have to
options.
try the vegan cheese actually because
It's
you
so
kind of got
good.
me convinced that it doesn't taste like.
I'm telling you, as a foodie who doesn't even want to eat vegan cheese, I'm addicted to vegan cheese.
Wow.
Okay,
Wow.
interesting. Yeah, they've got gluten-free options. They've got vegan options. They've got and if some people that don't do pork, they've got alternatives for that as well. He really makes sure that everybody is taken care of across the board for whatever you like.
And I love the fact that we can actually do these live remotes now, and we've had a lot of them, and this is a fun one too. But one of my favorites was last month when we were actually watching Mike make
Yes,
pizza.
that is so cool.
That was a very
And he's
fun
more than just pizza, you guys. He's got boneless wings, bone-in wings, chicken strips, mojos, the potato poppers.
Salads.
He's got 3 different types of salads.
Pastas.
3 different types of pastas. Keep them coming.
They have a huge alcohol selection.
Huge alcohol selection. What else?
Well, Sandy Ann Brewing has worked alongside them, so they do a lot of
And
fun
desserts.
Yes.
Oh, and desserts! We can't forget the
They've got
desserts.
amazing
Michelle
desserts.
Ashley too.
Oh my
Can't forget.
goodness.
Are we talking yoga or food?
Oh,
Right?
I forget. So anyways, Mike from Oddmo's Pizza, do yourself a favor, call them and get it delivered straight to your door. You don't even have to leave. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The Green Monster's my favorite on the cauliflower crust. And you can add the cauliflower crust to any pizza that you like. It doesn't have to be just that one. So.
And I'm really going to encourage you to come back after the commercial break, because especially on YouTube, because you're going to watch us do some yoga next.
Not us.
Wait a minute, there's an us.
Really?
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
an us. You're doing it too.
Oh yeah, you are.
There's an us. There's an us.
We gotta go.
We're pulling
We'll be
at
back.
you.
We'll be back.